Hey, what's going on, guys? David Peck here from Orlando, Florida, better known as Dpeck100. I filmed a video of my October 2013 PSA submission and did get the cards back and thought it would be fun to start another video and sort of chronicle the results. Definitely had some hits, definitely had some misses, and as you can see, there's numerous stacks here. Unfortunately, one of the cards that I was really hoping was going to grade is the Under the Giant. PSA was not able to authenticate this card. This is the blank back version. As I had said in the first video, I thought there was a pretty good chance that was going to happen, but it was worth sending in. So I'm most likely going to explore other options. Perhaps BGS, SGC has an example of a Don Morocco in one of their slabs that notates the blank back. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the first stack. Here we have the 1985 O-Pee-Chee, Randy Savage. As I noted in the first video, this had sort of a rough cut at the bottom, and unfortunately I think the rough cut went into the corner, and this one got a 7, but as you can see, it's got spectacular centering, so it was very much hoping that this was a card I could add to my set, but it just wasn't meant to be. Next we have the King Kong Bundy. And the King Kong Bundy is one of the worst centered cards in the set. Hercules Hernandez is easily, at least in my view, the most difficult. But this one got a 7. I think the same problem is a little bit of corner wear. And I did add this to my set, though, because this is such a great centered copy. Next we have the Killer Beast, and this was really nice. I didn't get very many 10s on this submission, but this came back a Gem Mint 10. Anybody who's purchased any of these O-Pee-Chee cards knows finding them centered with sharp corners is very difficult. It's not a heavily collected set, so there's not a huge premium on the cards, but I'm piecing together all the base cards, and I have a few more to go, and I already had a 9, but it's always a great feeling to do a self-submitted 10. Next we have Siva Afi, and here again, this is a guy that is not very popular, certainly not a very valuable card, but a tough centered card to find. This is a pop 1. You sort of have to take some of the population reports on a set like this with caution because there really hasn't been that many submitted. I know it's less than 500 cards, and obviously there's quite a few of those out there. Now we're moving on to the Carnation set, and I knew that many of these had a chance to do pretty well. You know, when you send cards in, you always sort of have to hold your breath because you don't want to get too excited before you get the grades, because there's always surprises. Rick Martel here, this one got an 8. You can see the centering is not perfect, but it's a very, very sharp card. Next we have Kamala. This one got a 6. The problem with this card, as you can see, there's a little staining on the back. For those who are not familiar with the Carnation cards, they came in hot cocoa mix, so have a little brown staining is not that shocking. This card got a 7. You can see it has terrible centering, but otherwise has mint attributes, and so I ask for no qualifiers on my submissions, and so when a card is this off-centered, it's generally at a minimum a 2 grade point decline or dock, however you want to phrase that. So next we have the Ric Flair, one of my favorite cards. I love this shot of the Nature Boy holding the NWA title. I'm going to zoom in a little closer, and you can see this is a great example. I looked at the back. I think perhaps the corners maybe or just might one of them be touched, but you know, one of the things I find so cool about these Carnation cards is they're so condition sensitive. There's only been a handful of cards ever grade mint. There is 110 of Kamala, but this is by far Ric Flair's toughest card to find. As I said before, they're super condition sensitive, and the prices reflect that. This right here is an example of one of my favorite wrestling cards. I love the Road Warriors. I think these guys were just awesome. This graded a near mint to mint 8. There's actually been a few others recently grade an 8. And by far one of the toughest wrestling cards to find. I think if you look here, you can see that there's just a little bit of top to bottom centering issues. Otherwise, this card is stunning, has perfect color. The corners are absolutely razor sharp. I only have 2 of the card itself, and a great addition to my collection. Very, very pleased with this card. Next, we have another Rick Martel. This is a little bit better centered example, but beautiful, beautiful copy. As you can see, it has excellent surface. You know, the photo's very, very clean. And I just recently sold my 7 on eBay just a few days ago for $300. These are very, very condition sensitive wrestling cards, so hard to find, and as I said before, the price is reflected. This right here was a really great hit in my sub. You know, I thought it had a chance to grade higher. After closer examination, I looked at the back, and you can see, as I pointed out with the Road Warriors card, there's just a little more border at the top. So far, this is the highest graded example. One of the things I find so exciting and fascinating about this set is when a 7 is the highest graded example, you just know they're tough. And it's a beautiful card. Love the shot. Nikita Koloff was pretty badass at this time. And a little side note is that he was brought into Jim Crockett Promotions via the Road Warriors, which they were looking for a big Russian, and he used to work out with them and Barry Darso in Minnesota. Gonna move to the next stack. Here we have a Tony Atlas. This got a 6. You know, I'm in some ways a little disappointed myself for sending this one in. On closer examination, it probably was a card I should have left in a card saver. Same thing here. This one got a 6 too, but you know, sometimes you got to roll the dice, and it is what it is. Next, we have a Bob Roop in a 7. Bob Roop's not a popular wrestler at all, but he was actually big here in Florida. This card is really, really tough. As I've said in other videos, and certainly in many threads on the internet, the yellow cards are some of the toughest cards in the set. And it's such a great set because it's challenging to find nice condition cards. A 7 in this card is actually a pretty strong grade because so many of them really can't be sent then. Next we have Bob Backlund, and as you can see, there's a little bit of snow on this card. I'm not certain if I got a tough grader or not, because I thought this card had a better shot at a higher grade, but it's a cool photo of Bob Backlund. You know, Bob Backlund was a really, really great wrestler, tremendous college background, incredibly strong. I remember seeing a video clip of him wrestling Ivan Koloff in Madison Square Garden and hoisting Koloff really above his head with one arm. And I think if anybody at home just gives that a thought, that's all I got to say. Next we have Ivan Putski. This one got a 7. As you can see, the surface is tough on this one, but it presents very well. This would be a great card for somebody who's trying to put the set together and really can't afford the higher grades. The Ivan Putski in a 9 is a pop 2, and there's very few cards that have come on eBay that I regret not going heavier on. There was a beautiful Ivan Putski, the pop 2 9 that came up, and just at the time I really wasn't in the mood to go as heavy as what I thought it was going to take to win, and I sort of wish I had. The Rick Martel. This is a super, super clean card, and it graded a 7. As I said in the first video, there's only 1 8 and 1 9. I just don't see many more of these surfacing in strong condition. I would argue a 7 on this is probably like a 9 on most cards. Mascaris. This is a great looking card, graded a 7. You know, it's so easy to forget that a 7 in these yellow cards is such a really strong grade. The centering's not perfect on this top to bottom. That may have held it back. You know, I haven't really examined it, and since I got it back, there may be a touched corner, but either way, nice card. Next we have Billy Robinson, and what an underrated wrestler. I would encourage anybody that's watching this video to go to YouTube and type in Billy Robinson, and you will see a guy put on a dazzling wrestling performance. Fabulous Moolah. This is the elusive card in the 82A. As it stands right now, there are no 9s. Now, I do have the PSA 9 PD, but it certainly wouldn't grade a straight 9. Great looking card. As you can see, the little, I think it's sort of part of the photo. I don't know the pixelation, but needless to say, that streak is on so many of the cards. And so as it stands now, there's plenty of 8s with a lot being submitted at this point, but the 9 remains elusive. And I guess you can never say never with cards. I just don't see a 10 happening. Next we have the Mascaris. This is a very strong grade for this card. As I said before, there's only 1 9 so far. On the reverse of this, on one of the lower corners, it's touched. Otherwise, this card would have graded mint because the centering's great. Next, we move on to Harley Race. And as I said in the first video, Harley Race was a great performer, a legitimate tough guy. I really like this card. You know, it's just a classic shot of a super tough guy. As you zoom in, you can see his forehead's all busted up. And Harley Race was what wrestling was in the 70s. You know, really tough guys, hard drinking, smoking, traveling around the country, and raising hell. Ivan Putski in an 8. This one is very, very sharp. I think the surface issues held it back, but a great grade for this card. Another 8. Captain Lou. This particular card is really impacted with lots of print dots in general. This one's got a pretty clean surface. Unfortunately, one of the corners is slightly touched, and so I was sort of expecting an 8. There's always a party that's hoping for a little better. Bob Roop in an 8. This is a funny card because I bought this in a Tony Gurria some months back, and I think I won them each for like $18, but if you saw the auction at the end, I triple stacked my bids, and I think my high bids were something like $75 on each one of them. Ricky Steamboat. This is a very, very tough card. Only 2 9s, lots of 8s, but a great shot, very well centered. Tony Gurria. So far, this is a pop 1 and a 9. I really wish when it first hit eBay several years ago that I had stepped up to the plate and bought it. I actually at the time was loaded up in the auction and won a good chunk of the cards, and I just didn't really realize how tough it was and thought most likely there'd be more surface, but it's been several years and there's been no 9s. I sent in 3 of these, and they're very sharp examples, but just weren't good enough to get the elusive 9, at least for me. Even this in an 8 is a very tough card, and I added all these to my sets. Okay, moving right along. Next we have the 1985 Wrestling All-Stars. These are a cool set of cards. They came in a collector's magazine of 54 cards, and myself and another collector went back and forth with PSA on how they should grade these. They've already graded, I think it was 34 examples from the set where individuals were able to cut them. I tried to break apart a magazine with the minor perforations. It's just not possible. But after sending it out to PSA, they determined that going forward they wanted them perforated, so they agreed to just give them an authentic rating. Andre the Giant is one of the cards on the top row, as I said in the last video. So this is a really hard card to find with some white on the top. Cowboy Bob Orton, I had cut this one really nicely. It's got perfect centering and a cool shot of him. Next we have the Road Warriors. Road Warriors are by far my favorite tag team, and right at the top of the folks that I think are, badass from professional wrestling, at least in the 80s. And I think you can make the case this is their rookie card. So I wanted to have one of these in a slab. I sent in 2 of them, and both of these look pretty strong. The assumption when I sent them in was they'd get numeric grades, and that just wasn't the case. Superstar Graham, nice shot. Roddy Piper. I think this is by far Roddy Piper's best card. This card, if they had graded them as they had in the past, I think would have graded very high. And I'm nonetheless happy to see one in a slab. Nature Boy Ric Flair. This particular card is on the first page. It's card number 2. And you can see there's a white border there on top, which is very hard to find with these. This right here is, I was really hoping would have gotten a numeric grade because there are very few Hulk Hogan's with white on the top. And it's card number 1. And this particular set, the first 3 or 4 pages in particular, have really tough top centering. So, nevertheless, a nice example of Hulk Hogan. Next, we're moving to the Swanson cards. I was very fortunate. I bought a set of these from a seller in Canada, and they all came out pretty good. The only particular card I didn't send in was the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and it wouldn't have graded very high, but here we go. Randy Savage, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. This is a nice card, got a 9. Jake the Snake, Bret the Hitman Hart, the Bushwhackers, Luke and Butch, Hulk Hogan, 8.5. It's a pretty strong grade for Hulk. The Mountie, the Ultimate Warrior, and Ultimate Warrior for fans who keep up with current wrestling. Looks like the WWE and the Warrior have made amends, and he's going into the Hall of Fame this year. Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado. Great shot of Kerry. It's interesting, today would have been his 54th birthday. So, rest in peace, Kerry. The Rockers, Marty and Sean. This was one of the few cards I got a 10 on in my submission. I got the Big Boss Man. Next we have the 1986 Topps Traded Tiffany Barry Bonds. I really thought this card had a shot at a 10. The corners certainly are deserving. There's a little teeny print dot on it somewhere. I've got to assume that that's the determining factor of what keeps a card in a 9 versus a 10 on this particular one. Next we have the Bo Jackson, and I don't think you can see it in the video. As I said before, the surface on this particular example is not the best. Everything else is gem mint on the card, but when I showed it to some fellow collectors on the PSA message board, I was expecting a 6, and this is what it got. Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, one of my favorite all-time wrestlers, and as you can see, Kerry was in unbelievable condition, and unfortunately, really wasn't alive too much longer after maybe another 2 years. The Undertaker. I just love this shot of The Undertaker. Shawn Michaels and Cherry. I knew this one with the touch corner probably wasn't a grade super high, but I think it's a cool shot. And this is when Shawn Michaels really broke out as a star. He used to have that funny music, Sexy Boy. And great time watching Shawn Michaels at the time. Kevin Nash Diesel. As you can see at the bottom there, looks like there's a little bit of the card below on it. And one of the things that really makes it hard to grade the Tiger Woods rookie card high is the way these cards are cut, where you can generally see the other cards. So I'm guessing that's why this got a 7. Everything else I thought looked superb on it. Cactus Jack. This so far is the only example graded by PSA. A good shot of Cactus Jack. And one of the things, some of these PSA has a tendency to put in the oversized holder. And I asked for regular size holders on my submissions, and I don't know if that played a role or not, but I was very, very pleased to get this in a standard holder. Stunning Steve. This particular card is probably his rookie card. I like the 1993 WCW Magazine card better, but you know, I'm willing to buy pretty much anything that has some significance. And this particular card, I think, seems to be the more desired of the two. Ron Simmons, this is the 87 test run. I was real pleased to get a 9 with that one. We've got the 1987 test run again, and this is actually Paul Ellering, but it's a great shot of Animal. That dude was jacked. The Undertaker. Now, this was one of the cards that slowed my submission down. I'm going to get in a little bit closer on this, and you probably can see this is a little bit of a short card, and the Classic European is glossy and smaller. I tried getting them to label it Classic European with no luck, and I guess they couldn't tell the difference, which sort of surprised me, but this is going to stay in my personal collection. If I was looking to sell it, it definitely would have been a disappointment to not have it labeled properly, because the European edition is so much harder to find. Next, we're moving to the some more of these magazine cards. You got Jim Cornette. This one got a 7. Smoking Guns. I'm not exactly certain what I missed. I don't know if it's that, you can see there on the right edge, the way the perforations kind of peeled up. That might have been the problem. Under the Giant. This one got an 8. Bret the Hitman Hart. I don't know. I must have missed some paper loss or something on one of the perforations, or there might be a tiny, tiny wrinkle. I would not have sent this card in if I thought I was going to get a 4. We got the Grand Wizard. The Four Horsemen, a great shot. You see the Nature Boy with the big old Rolex, and love the J.J. Dillon hitting the Four Horsemen. This particular card's not that tough and high grade. Generally, they got pretty good centering, so we kind of need to have a 10 on this one to make it really valuable, or modestly valuable, but a great shot nonetheless. Good card. This one got a 7. Jake the Snake got an 8. And I tell you, after sending this one, and this is a really clean example, it makes me more excited about the 10 that I purchased a few months back. And the Macho Man. This one got an 8. And once again, I have this card in a 10. It was the first one submitted as a 10, and it's one of my favorite cards. Hitting the last stack, I thought I'd save some of the best for last. This right here is a monster card. As a lot of people know, anytime there's a registry component in a set, some of the cards that are less desired, go for big money. Jack Briscoe's not the most popular, but this is a Pop 2 and a 9, and there's only 110. I happen to own all 3 of those cards. I was thrilled when I saw this one hit in my results. Next, we have Ernie Ladd, and here again, this is a tough card. It was a Pop 4 going into my submission, and I nailed 3 of these in a 9, which was great. I've got a number of active sets for the 82A, so it was able to help me upgrade a few. And the final one. Tony Atlas. Here again, another really tough card. A strong grade is a 9. It's a Pop 4. There's 110. I own that one. I'm very, very pleased to have this card come back a 9. Angelo Mosco. This is a great shot. I showed you in the first video, the back had a little bit of discoloring. The centering is fantastic. It's interesting. I just pulled this photo up last night on eBay. It's on the cover of an AWA program from 1977. The Destroyer. This is the back card, card number 36. On some of the sealed sets, he's on the back. On others, it's the Crusher. Very, very pleased to self-submit a 9 on this one. The Iron Sheik. This particular card's not the most condition sensitive. A lot of the blue cards are not. But the Iron Sheik is super popular, and you just can't go wrong with a mint condition Iron Sheik. Kurt Hennig. This is so far the easiest card in all three sets in a 10. I had never submitted one in that high a grade, but I was really pumped to nail a 10 on this. It's always nice to have a raw card sitting around that comes back in a 10. Final card is the Buddy Rogers, and as I said in the first video, I thought this card was a 9. I was very pleased to see that not only was I right, but it achieved the grade that I wanted. And overall, very pleased with the submission. As I said before, there were some hits and misses, but you know, anytime you send in cards, you just have to take the good with the bad. And overall, you know, the primary reason you send in cards is to try to enhance their value, and clearly that was done with the submission. So anyway, thank you very much for checking out my video. I'm going to be uploading this tonight, and look forward to putting out more content over the next coming months. Take care, guys.